we need. Oops. Okay. And then so some of our campaign staff, here's Andre here, our campaign director. And then Georgia actually was part of the original team that started Whole Washington, and she's our volunteer operations director. Jen Nye is our communications director. We are still currently just all volunteer. Here's our board of directors. Jason Call, he's running for Congress actually in CD2. Mariana Everson is another registered nurse from the.
This meeting is being recorded.
From Grays Harbor area. Holly Allen is our treasurer, and there's myself. Lynn Idahosa has been on for about 2 years now, and it's just been a wonderful help with us. And then Marilyn Chase has been awesome with helping us to turn our original initiative into Senate bill, helping us to negotiate the whole legislative process. She's just been a wonderful resource. Naomi Finkelstein is kind of our representative from the Disability Caucus. So she's been really helpful. Laura is not only a board member of Whole Washington, Laura Fielding, but she's also executive director of Red Berets for Medicare for All. And she's been super, super supportive of Whole Washington ever since she found out about it. And then Courtney Love is another one of our board members who's very active with Democratic Socialists of America. Let's see, but we couldn't do what we do without all of our wonderful volunteers. We need to, this is what we need, is getting people out in the streets and making, telling our elected officials what we need, what we really need, you know. Let's see, okay, so Andre's been working really hard, and actually everybody was before that too, in getting endorsements from many places. Many LDs have endorsed, and I think that's why I'm here today, is to ask you for your endorsement. But the Aberdeen City Council, Kitsap County Democrats, Jefferson County Democrats, Snohomish County Democrats, Our Revolution, the Washington State Federation of Salish Democratic Women. We just got the endorsement of the Transit Riders Unit and the Union and the Tenants Union of Washington State. We're really excited about that. Just lots of great, and then we have lots of endorsements if you go on the website from candidates, from office holders, and such, so you can check those out too. Let me see if I can get this to move. Okay. So what do we mean by universal health care? And what we mean is healthcare that's always going to be there when you need it. That doesn't, let me see. Okay. That covers every Washington resident, regardless of whether of your marriage status. You don't have to stay in a bad marriage or get married in order to get health insurance. It doesn't matter if your housing status, if you need health care, you can get it. Your employment status, if you decide to take another job, you don't have to think about, am I going to be healthy enough in this 3 months period before I can get onto another health insurance plan? Or maybe this job looks great, but they don't offer any benefits, so I can't take it. Or your citizenship status, because I'll tell you, and people, it irritates me when people say, really, we're going to give it to non-citizens, but when somebody comes through our emergency room door and they're sick, we don't stop to ask. We do not stop to ask if they're a citizen, if they have insurance, anything. We save their lives, and then we figure out later how we're going to pay for it. So I don't like, anyway. That's my point. Let's see. Okay, it covers everything: dental, hearing, vision, mental health, reproductive health, all of the whatever's required in the ACA minimum level, it covers. And then there's additional things on there that are on top of the ACA. So one of the things that doesn't cover, somebody asked me the other day, is her Medicare Advantage plan covers her for if she travels out of the country. And we decided, one, that is sort of left up to the board to add additional coverage, but we do kind of have to leave a little bit of something for the for-profit health insurance companies to be able to sell to people, right? So I'm thinking that's a good thing. So to leave for them. for people who want to go travel. Let's see. So what would be the benefits? Basically, we all save money. Everybody, the state saves money. You and I save money. It puts dollars back into people's pockets that they can use to pay their rent, to get groceries, to pay for their daycare, to pay for their gas. Everybody saves money. You don't need to switch insurance when your job changes. There would be no more medical bankruptcies. Everything would be covered. And it's free at the point of the use. So there would be no bills. You don't have to worry about if you go to the doctor or you go have a really severe, expensive, critical illness. You don't have to worry about what the bill is going to look like coming at you in the mail. So while you're at home trying to recuperate. And Andre added this, and I thought it was good to leave it. This is a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane. And for a while, we actually did quite a few presentations of Power to Heal. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched that. It's an excellent documentary. If you ever have the chance to watch it, I recommend that you do. I wouldn't, it's powerful. It's kind of sickening though, to see that is where we came from. But I really encourage people to see it. And this is the biggest question that everybody wants to know. How are we going to pay for it? You know, and there's many ways that we could pay for it. And all of our previous I-1600, our previous bills, Senate Bill 5222, Senate Bill 5204, all had different methods of how are we going to pay for it. But generally, we had an employer's contribution, a payroll tax, which would replace the health insurance premiums that your companies that you work for have to pay to the for-profit health insurance companies. So it says it's 10.5% of your wages, right? But it's actually only 8.5% for the employer, and another 2% that the employees contribute. Unless that employer wants to pay for that, they can, or unless a union negotiates for employers to cover that 2%, they can. Excuse me. Or if a company is small, just growing, has less than 50 employees, they are able to go to the board and request to have a waiver from that. And the terms of those waivers are the powers given to the board of this bill, which has now been in this iteration, we've transferred that power to our Washington State Universal Healthcare Commission. They would be the ones that would determine if the company would be allowed to have a waiver from that. But that is the intent for new and upcoming businesses. We want to make it as easy on them as possible to be successful. Sole proprietors would earn 2% or would pay 2% of their earnings after all their deductions, and the first 15,000 isn't taxed. And I kind of figured it out for what some of my friends have been paying, and I don't know what their income is, but I know I have some people that I know that are paying, $1,000, $1,200 a month because they're self-employed, and they've got a $10,000 deductible. And I kind of calculated it out, and they would have to make more than 500,000 a year to pay more than what they're paying now on our plan. So for 90 to 95% of the people in our state, they would all pay less. And it's that top 5-10% that would either pay the same, or that top 5% that would pay more. And most of the people in the top 5% feel that they can pay more. They don't like to pay more, but they can. Investors would pay 8.5% of profits from capital gains that are sold, with the first 15,000 not being taxed. It also excludes quite a bit more than what the current capital gains tax is at, right? All the retirement accounts, home sales, your main home sales, the profits from that wouldn't be taxed. The sale of family farms and timberland. And anyway, there's a lot more of that. And so what we did with this time, because of the capital gains tax, is that we made a provision that said if they have to pay an additional tax, capital gains, then they get a credit. So because our current capital gains tax is like, they don't pay, they pay on $250,000. So there's kind of a gap there. And we thought about getting rid of that, seeing how unpopular it was for a lot of people, but it's really the only way that we can tax the very, very rich. And so we left it because we felt like they needed to pay their fair share too. So let's see. And what about private insurance? Like I said, I think we can find a few things that we can leave for the private insurance companies to be able to sell and market to people. But basically, we're tired of buying what they're selling. So, and the big question is, how are we going to get this passed? How do we do that? The nice thing about, about Washington is that we have the initiative process. Now, we've tried doing it through the legislature, just like many other organizations have tried before us. It was first introduced by Senator Hasegawa as Senate Bill 5222, and then he reintroduced it again in 2021 as Senate Bill 5204. Is that right? No, 2020. I can't remember. Anyway, it's no longer a current active bill. But it had 7 Senate co-sponsors the second time. I think we had like 3 the first time. We had 9 endorsements in the House, but we never could get anybody to actually introduce a companion bill in the House. And basically, it, like every other bill before it relating to a single payer universal health care plan, it never even got a hearing in either of the healthcare committees. So, and it's never been given a vote or a public hearing at all. So it's very frustrating because it just is very frustrating. So, but luckily we live in Washington. The people who wrote our Constitution understood that there potentially could be a time where maybe our elected officials were not doing the right thing for the people, and so we have the ability to do initiatives to the people and make laws that we feel are necessary for all of our people that are fair and just. So we first did I-1600, but since then we I cannot believe how much this bill has grown and expanded. And this last iteration, we went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I feel like it is the best one out there. All of the objections from around the country we have addressed and finally got out that they didn't like. So hopefully we'll have the support from all of the rest of the country. So we just launched our this campaign, I-1471, and we need to collect signatures now, from now to December. And then it doesn't really go on the ballot in 2023. In January, if we get the signatures, it goes to our legislature and they have the opportunity then to pass it. The great thing about this is that our Universal Healthcare Commission needs to have further legislation in order to actually enact this type of a bill, or what they're intended to do. And this is this legislation would be what they need to actually get the ball rolling. And it has a great transition plan. One of their objections is that it would be too disruptive. Well, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever lost your job, and how disruptive was that? So I'm not worried too much about how much it is disruptive to some people who are concerned about that. But for the rest of us, I don't think it'll be disruptive at all. Our goal is 400,000 signatures. They're kind of saying 405,000, but we're thinking 400,000 should get us there. So, and it's kind of interesting. I think we just had a hearing in the Senate. Bernie Sanders' bill, they did a lot of talking about the CBO report. And so I was doing some research on the CBO report, trying to drill it down. And I found this great video if you guys want to watch it, because I think it explains a lot of it so well. So let me just show you that really quick. Okay. Hang on, let me make it
Medicare
big
for all.
so you can see it. Okay, here we go.
There's a lot of talk about Medicare for all. What does that mean?
A new report from the Republican-led Congressional Budget Office finds that scrapping our corporate healthcare system and instead shifting towards a Medicare for all-like medical system would confer numerous benefits, including boosting the economy and helping out workers in several other ways.
It's no secret that I support Medicare for all.
I don't.
Consider the report in its own words. Households' health insurance premiums would be eliminated and their out-of-pocket healthcare costs would decline.
I think everyone should essentially be able to be, from age 1 on, essentially have the same kind of coverage you have in Medicare.
The reduction in health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket expenses would generate a positive wealth effect, allowing households to spend their time on activities other than paid work and maintain the same standard of living.
It should be just universal, across the board. We could afford to do that.
It is totally unrealistic. It can't be done.
Longevity and labor productivity would increase as people's health outcomes improved.
Democrats aren't just running on good old ideas, they're running on good new ideas, like Medicare for all.
And yet, for all of the benefits that are outlined by the Republican-led CBO in this report, Medicare for all legislation remains stalled.
I support a public option.
Provide a public option.
Providing a public option.
Provide a public option.
But Biden hasn't pushed that public option plan as president. He didn't even include it in his budget plan last year.
We can get a public option passed, and we can get it passed quickly.
It can happen immediately. I can get it passed.
Instead, he and Democratic leaders have adopted proposals from health insurance lobbyists to further entrench our corporate healthcare system and put more Americans on for-profit, subsidized health insurance plans.
Further subsidize the ability to get into a gold plan.
The CBO is hardly some bastion of left-wing utopianism, and in a money-drenched political system, the federal government rarely admits these scathing truths about our status quo, especially truths that really illuminate how much better life would be for millions of Americans if we were to adopt the reforms that other countries made a long time ago.
The real problem is going to be taking on those insurance companies.
And I think he's right there. He's got that. And so let me see. How do I get rid of this? Oh, this is in my way. Hang on a second. Okay. I can, there we go. So the road to universal healthcare, there's been lots of other things that have been gone through the states. Just if you look at Saskatchewan, it was the first province in Canada, and they enacted that because it was a need in their province, and it was so popular that it then spread around their country. The same things happened in the United States. I mean, what Massachusetts, was it Massachusetts? I don't remember what state this is, that made Romney Care. So now we call it, somebody called it, and I thought it was great, Obamacare. You know, so lots of things have been started at the state level, and the states, most of our elected officials admit that the states are the testing grounds for things to go nationally. And so that is what we expect to happen. And that was what we'll continue to push for too, is to get it up and running in Washington. That's going to open the door, show all the other states how it can be done, especially some of those smaller states that maybe have to do it we don't feel like as in Washington that we would need to combine with any other state, because we're just as big as countries like Norway, who, do it just fine. Australia, same thing. But some of these smaller states, I get it. They may need to join together, and they'll be able to do that. It's definitely possible. Let's see. I think my mouse is. So we're just asking you guys if you would please take action. You can, if you want to take action, you can go to wholewashington.org and volunteer. You can become a signature captain. The signature captain program is awesome that Andre has come up with, because basically it really, it just explains in plain English, really understandable, that we really just need 800 people that are willing to go out and commit to collecting those 500 signatures, each, getting that done. And we'll have our 400,000 signatures to get it, to then make our elected officials have to vote on it. And if they don't vote for it, it can go to the people. So, and so you can go to our website and look at the volunteer form, sign up to volunteer, either as a signature captain or any other thing, wherever your skills are. But please, we would just really like to encourage you to endorse Whole Washington and to help us get there. We're confident that we can make it this time. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. And so, Catherine, if you could turn off your screen sharing at this particular point in time. We currently have everybody muted who is on their computer. If you're calling in on your phone, you're currently unmuted. And so if you do have a question for Catherine, if you could unmute yourself and then respectfully make sure you're not talking over somebody else, but feel free to ask Catherine any questions that you might have. Mary Winkus, I saw that you go ahead. Go ahead, Kristen. And then I see Mary Winkus has unmuted herself as well.
I just, I just want to understand, it's like we have Apple Care, and can this build off of that? Is there some way to, or is it just a clean change? You know what I mean? It sounds like it's a clean change, which is awesome. I really appreciate you doing this. But I'm just curious, sort of the bridge there. So
great. So Apple Care would automatically move into the trust. The one thing that we think is good about that is that the reimbursements to providers to Apple Care would increase. Now for from pediatrics, they get pretty decent reimbursement, but for adults, they don't. It's about 60% of Medicare reimbursement. So many doctors can only afford to take so many Apple patients, right? Otherwise, they can't pay their staff. So by increasing the reimbursements to a more acceptable level and reducing the administrative costs, that's going to give everybody is going to become just as valuable to a provider as anybody else. There will be no very well-paid provider, because if you have private insurance and they're a smaller insurance company, they can't negotiate any kind of decent rates with providers, right? But the state can, but unfortunately, it's not enough. So there's a provider committee and a finance committee, and they will actually negotiate the rates. And like with our last financial study, what we based it on about 116% of what Medicare reimbursement is. So for all of those Medicaid patients, they're going to have so much more access to so many more providers, and the providers are going to be able to take them because they're adequately reimbursed. So.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
And even with paying them all more, we can cover everybody because we save so much. People just don't understand really when you're talking about saving $8 billion, what you can actually do with that kind of money, because none of us have a household budget where there's, that's dealing in billions of dollars, you know what I mean? So.
Mary Winkus, you had taken yourself off mute. Do you have a question for Catherine?
Well, it's not a question. It's she said she was from Arlington, And that's where I was raised. That's my hometown. And I just want you to say hi for me. I haven't been back there for a long time. Cascade General, McLeod, Washington. My dad had a business on Olympic Avenue. So it's all really
right
memory. So hi to Arlington.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where I work, is Cascade Valley Hospital right now. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Catherine.
Well, I've always worked like for the Catholics for most of my career. And then the last 2 jobs, the last one, it was more through the county health district. And it just, I guess I don't want to slam the Catholics too much, but I was so impressed with how much a hospital district could respect people's spirituality so much better than I saw them doing in the Catholic hospital. You know what I mean? Anyway, I love not being part of the Catholic system anymore. So
we always think of Spokane as a big small town, and Mary Wink has just proved that Washington is a big small state. So.
Right.
Catherine, could you? I'm about to turn 65 in September, which means I become eligible for Medicare. Could you? And I know I'm looking at my list of PCOs, and I'm going, not everybody is over 65. In fact, we've got a fair number that are under 65. But I think a burning question for those that are on Medicare is how does this proposal impact those folks' current relationship with Medicare?
So it's going to be wonderful for our Medicare patients or residents, actually. So right now, well, we got rid of the premiums too. We used to have premiums in there, but what we discovered was that with the previous taxes that we had in there, when we did the financial study, we were actually collecting $12 billion more a year than we needed to. And so we got rid of that. So that makes it even more cost effective for our Medicare patients. But basically, initially what we'll do, initially right away, you'd stay on your Medicare, and the Washington Health Trust would be secondary to that. Then first thing we direct the Universal Healthcare Commission to do is to apply to become a Medicare Advantage plan. We don't necessarily like Medicare Advantage plans because the insurance companies have gotten really good at upcoding people and making people look sicker than they actually are, which increases their reimbursements from the government. And so, and that's why they are making such huge profits. And so they're basically sucking all of the money out of Medicare, which is wrong. But we can apply to be a Medicare Advantage plan. The premium, there would be no premiums. You would just like automatically be in there. And with you being in there and on a Medicare Advantage plan, we would get Medicare money from the government. It's not as streamlined as if we were to get a Medicare waiver and just have all of the Medicare funds come into the trust. But we can do it, and it's part of the transition plan. Once the state-based Universal Health Care Act passes in Congress, if it does, that is supposed to streamline and make it easier for states to have direct access to those Medicare funds. And then once that passed, then everybody who was on Medicare would automatically be in the trust, or could be in the trust. You could stay with your for-profit companies, but if you have to pay anything, there's not going to be any fee for most of our Medicaid or Medicare people. And it's really great for the Medicaid patients, the patients who are, and the dual Medicaid, Medicare patients, because the providers will get reimbursed better. They'll get above Medicare rates. That's our intent. That's what we did the funding study on. And for people who right now have to buy a supplemental, you have to have a supplemental because all of that stuff would be covered by the trust.
And I know, Catherine, I know Elliot Fabric had posted. Elliot, was your request for the YouTube link, was that for Catherine's YouTube link that she had shared to be posted in the chat so that people could go to see it? Is that what you were requesting?
Yes.
Okay, so Catherine, might you be able to share that YouTube link in the chat for Elliot's request?
I can try. Hang on, I'll figure it out here in a second. It takes a while.
Yep. We're all respectful of technology, especially me. And John Lemus, did you just join us? Is that correct?
Oh darn.
Good morning, everyone.
Yep. So I'm going to rename you John because you logged in as Spokane County Democrats, but which I see you now have your official organizational name behind you in the banner. You must be set up for the tabling that we're doing today.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So John, I think, has this technology stuff down because not only can he do it from whether he's in a room, he can do it outside as well. And so, John, we're just going through a presentation from Hull, Washington. We're in the question and answer phase of that, and so Catherine is working to share a link in the chat that Elliot Fabric had requested. And then Mary Winkus is going to have a follow-up question. Is there anyone else that would like to? There's the link that I think.
Yep. I had a question there.
Okay, so we'll go from Mary Winkus to Patty Irvin, and then anybody else has a question, feel free to unmute yourself, and that'll be the signal to me that you would like to speak, and I'll do my darndest to identify you. So Mary Winkus, go ahead.
Yeah, I know I'm one of the lucky ones because I work for the state, and the state midway through while I worked for them started a VIBA plan, and so 1% of my salary, I didn't have a choice, went into VIBA, and I also have an HSA. They are only for medical expenses, and I still have considerable amount in there. If this goes through and there are none, what happens to my VIBA and what happens to my HSA?
Oh, that's a tough question, and I actually know the language is in there, but I'm like so tired. I don't know if I'm going to give you the accurate information, because there is language in there for that money to be reimbursed to people. The personal money, I'm not sure. Gosh, it's kind of confusing, but it is in there, and
it's all personal money for me. The 1%
Right.
came straight out of my salary, and the HSA was contributed by me.
Right.
And so, Catherine, what I'd like to suggest is maybe you jot that down as a question.
Yeah.
And if you shoot it back to me or directly or through Andre, then we can get that information out to Mary.
Yeah, I'll double check because I don't want to get it right or wrong. But I know the intent is to reimburse that. And then the other intent is to allow companies who have made contributions to those HSAs for their employees, their portion of it, they're able to use that money to help with paying to apply for their what they have to pay into the trust. And it's like graduated over time, it's not like they have to put all the money right now into the trust. It's like whatever they had to pay that year in payroll taxes, they're able, and that's of what they put in. And I can't remember exactly what happens with what people put in, but I keep telling people, why don't we just let them put it in their retirement? Then
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work to go in your retirement.
Well, I don't think the retirement accounts are set up to have that dumped in like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Because
Okay,
my
so-
understanding is your health insurance, that money goes in tax-free, right?
What?
Isn't that right? The money that you put into the HSA, you put in tax-free
Correct.
or taxes.
Pre-tax.
And
Yep.
then same thing with your retirement. Money you put into your retirement goes in tax-free, right?
Well, pre-tax, I have to
Pre-tax,
pay for it
and
when I
then-
take it out.
And then you pay for both of those. Well, you pay for the retirement when it comes out. So what's
Well,
the difference?
Except like this is too much to get into, but TIAA is not going to just take a dump of money to my account. So there has to be more figured out about that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And
And
here's
I think there is, and when we were asking the questions, we were like, of the person who designed that, she said, we were having a hard time understanding it. And she was saying that, because a lot of the terms, she was like, the people who deal with that stuff, the insurance and all, they understand all those terms.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I put my email in the chat and you could
Okay.
send it directly to me. I don't want to take any more time.
Okay.
Yep. And so Patty Irvin, you're next up. And then if anybody else would like to ask Catherine a question, feel free to unmute yourself and go from there. So Patty, you are on deck and go ahead and take it away.
Okay, Catherine, I was just wondering if any estimated or calculated or tried to calculate or estimate the cost savings of people getting their healthcare needs met at clinics versus ERs, which ends up costing us much more than if people had just gone to a clinic for an easy prevention or easy fix. They wait until really sick and go to the ER, and it costs us thousands and thousands of dollars in our health insurance payments, et cetera. It's a hidden cost, but it's a cost.
I do believe that, like in Gerald, most of those major economists, they do take that into consideration, the money saved in our emergency rooms. The other thing that I think it's a horrible thing to think of. The other thing that is a lot of them consider a negative is that if people are allowed to go to the doctor and they stay healthier, they actually live longer, and over the course of their lifetime, they actually cost more, which is it's like, that's a horrible way to think of it. So they cost more, you're just gonna like let them die early because you don't want to take care of them for a longer period of time. I don't get that.
I know there were calculations for national savings if people went to a $60 clinic visit versus a $6,000 ER visit. Still,
yeah.
I mean, if people wait until they need the emergency room, often that does not end up, with life-saving either.
Right.
So too late. We can't help you now. So
but they do try to help you now. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, in my opinion, on lost causes that we know what the outcome is eventually going to be, but nobody wants to give up or to say, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I've been a critical care nurse for too long, and I see that too much. It's sad that we're spending so much money when if we just kept people in their insulin, they would not be going through this. If we just give people access to a doctor so that they could keep and medication so they could keep their blood pressure under control, we would not be spending this. You know what I mean?
Dental care, so they don't get meningitis, or
exactly
not wait until they have a brain injury. It just doesn't make sense to wait.
And then are permanently disabled at a very young age. Right. And what does that cost to society? I'd rather pay to keep people healthy and let them live longer and pay that cost than to, let them become disabled and have to pay to take care of them for a shorter period of time, but it's still a very expensive cost and much less quality of life.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Catherine? I don't see anybody else unmuted, but I also want to make sure that we give folks plenty of time to be able to ask questions. Are there any other questions for Catherine? Catherine, thank you so much for joining the 3rd Legislative District over here in Spokane and providing some information about whole Washington. We don't have the endorsement matter on the agenda for today, but you've laid the framework for us to consider endorsing the initiative. And for our PCOs who are on the Zoom call, you know, if you've got plenty of time now to go to wholewashington.org and learn more about the initiative. And if you'd personally like to become involved immediately, you've got the ability to do that through the volunteer effort to get the 400,000 plus signatures by December in order to get that on the ballot. And we also have the ability to talk up whole Washington on a PCO to, you know, Catherine, we're blessed in the 3rd Legislative District. We've got Senate Majority Leader Andy Billig, House Appropriations Committee Chair Tim Ormsby, and Majority Whip Marcus Riccelli as our Democratic representatives to the state legislature. So we've got the only legislators, Democratic legislators east of the Cascades right here in the 3rd LD. And I know they understand the big picture, and we will do our darndest to, as PCOs, to impress upon them the importance of healthcare for everyone in Washington State. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You guys have a great day. I'm going to jump off if that's okay. Okay.
That would be fine. That, you know, this is the wonderful thing about Zoom is you can zoom in and zoom out. So thank you, Catherine, so much for your participation.
You guys have a great day. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. So for those who just joined us while we were having our discussion, we're on the agenda item for the Whole Washington Health Trust. I would like everyone to go to wholewashington.org over the next month or so and learn more about it. You know, we can put it as an agenda item on our September 10th meeting. If we would like to do that, if there's a groundswell of opinion. Healthcare is an incredibly complicated subject, and I don't think unless somebody objects and thinks that the organization, that the body is ready to make a decision at today's meeting with respect to endorsement. My sense is because of it's a very complicated subject, we would be better off as an organization to learn more about the initiative and better understand the initiative and consider it at a future meeting as opposed to this meeting. But I will open up the, you know, I'm not the 3rd Legislative District. The 19 other folks on this call make the decisions. I simply run your meetings. So if there is a groundswell of opinion that you'd rather consider it right now, speak now. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. So, but I will pause for a moment or two to allow the groundswell of opinion to speak up. Okay, David? Let's move on to the next agenda item. That would be the report of the chair. So at the very outset, I mentioned that the Association of State Democratic Committees, which is the 50 state parties, 5 territories, the District of Columbia, and Democrats Abroad, met in Seattle this past week. We just finished up yesterday afternoon about 3:30. We spoke on items of interest to all 57 state and territorial parties organizations. That organization meets 4 times a year, 2 DNC piggyback meetings, one day in March, and one day in September this year. And then we have our own 3-day meeting, typically in May and December. And we focus on the needs of the 57 state parties We have conversations with the leadership from the Democratic National Committee, and we network best practices. And so many states are holding elections this year, as Washington is. And just as a reminder, on our ballot this November, in the 3rd Legislative District, we've got Senator Patty Murray, who has outsourced her ground campaign to the state party. So the coordinated campaign in Washington state will be the Patty Murray on the ground campaign. Steve Hobbs, running to be retained as Secretary of State, is an important election. And in our legislative district, we've got 3 county commissioners who will be elected on ballots in the 3rd Legislative District, Districts 1, 2, and 5, as well as County Auditor Vicki Dalton is running to be reelected as our chief elections officer. And so 178 days now until the election, and we're going to be putting a press on. All the legislative districts and all the county party organizations are going to be putting a press on for a ground game, door knocking to the extent that you are able to do so, because that is the most effective way to reach voters. But there will also be phone banking opportunities and texting opportunities as well. So just have in your minds that it's going to be important to get out and about this year. Midterms are always important elections, but this year, particularly locally, midterms are important because this is the first year that we are electing 5 county commissioners in Spokane County. Historically, it has been 3, and we have a really excellent opportunity to get 2 of those 5 county commissioners as Democrats on the county commission, which we have not seen since 2010. And we have a decent shot at getting a 3rd county commissioner to actually wrest control of the county commission from the Republicans. And so that's my report. I'd like to see, Patty, do you have any comments as vice chair, and Lou Hill as state committee member? Just want to tee you up that you're going to have an opportunity if to speak as well if Patty, once Patty either concludes her remarks or indicates that she does not have any remarks.
I have no remarks. Thank you, David.
Okay. Lou Hill, do you want to talk about what's been going on at the state level, or would you prefer to pass?
I would prefer to pass.
Okay. We have not, I think in even numbered years, normally there would be a state central committee meeting around now, but because it's an even number year, we have the state convention instead. And so our next meeting of the state central committee has been deferred until September. And so we'll have the opportunity to have Lou talk about the state central committee at our September meeting, which is scheduled to occur a couple of weeks before then.
And I will be there, so.
Yep. And Mark Carlos sent his regrets. He's our other state central committee member. He is a staffer to council member Betsy Wilkerson, and is working with her today and was unable to attend today's meeting. So back at the March meeting, this body voted to hold an election for our 2 county representatives to the executive board. And I have sent out proposed election rules, which were roughly based on the election rules that we had for the last time our body had an election in a virtual environment, and would ask if anyone has any angst over any of those election rules to the point where you would like to propose changes to those proposed rules. So keep in mind that if you are currently on a computer, you, for the most part, have your status is muted. If you're on the phone like Yvette is and I am, your status is unmuted. But if you would like to have any proposed changes to the rules for the election of county representatives, please unmute yourself, and I will recognize you, and you can make your proposal for a change. no one appears to be unmuting themselves. So if somebody could unmute themselves and propose to adopt the rules as distributed, that would be wonderful.
Mary Ann McCurdy, I so propose.
Okay, it has been moved by Mary Ann. Do we have a second?
Lou Hill, second.
Okay, I heard a couple of them, but you all spoke over each other. So if one of you could go back and re-second, that would be great.
Lou can take it.
Okay, so Lou Hill has seconded. John, were you the third? So John thirded it. Any comments before we vote? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? The motion to adopt the proposed rules has been approved. We did not have any nominations in advance for these positions, so we will open up nominations from the floor. So what these positions entail are representing the 3rd Legislative District at the County Party's Executive Committee. That committee historically meets the 3rd Wednesday of each month. It historically meets at 6 o'clock. Meetings typically run for a couple of hours. There can also be special meetings of the Executive Committee. And what the Executive Committee does is acts on behalf of the county precinct committee officers in between the quarterly meetings of the precinct committee officers. So from a time commitment perspective, what this job would entail, if you were interested in self-nominating at this morning's meeting, this job would entail a commitment to attend either in person or virtually, as those meetings might change over time. The monthly meeting, stated meeting of the county party's executive committee, as well as participating in special meetings. Now, one of the reasons that we voted to open up for new opportunities for folks to serve is because one of our representatives that had previously been serving had not been able to make many of those meetings, and the county party has a much more stringent quorum requirement than the 3rd Legislative District does. And so they've been constrained by not having quorum at the county party's executive committee meetings, which makes it very difficult to run the county party in between. And so John, who previously had served as a representative, who is also the vice chair of the county party currently, had graciously said, let's open up both spots. Let's get 2 people in there who will be willing to attend those monthly meetings of the county party, and make it easier for the county party to obtain quorum. So that's how we got to where we are. And I would like to open up nominations from the floor for self-nominations for anyone on this call who might be interested in serving the 3rd Legislative District as a representative to the county party executive committee.
Dave, did you say strictly self-nominations at this time?
You can do self-nominations at this time, or if you want to try to coerce somebody else on the call to be a representative, you can nominate them as well, but they obviously would need to accept the nomination. So opening up for self-nominations and opening up for other nominations from the floor.
All right, then I nominate Yvette Joseph.
I would second that nomination. This is Karen Mobley, assuming that she chooses to be so.
And I just have I'm going to have a question for Yvette. I've recorded Yvette's nomination down. Yvette, how is you're currently a state committee member from the 6th? Does that give you automatic county party representation as a member of the 6th LD through the end of November? I'm just not familiar. And Jack, you're on as chair of the 6th. You're on the call as well. How are things currently working in the 6th LD? Because each LD has its own rules as to who represents it at the county level.
Yes, so it's currently Yvette does represent us at the county level as SCM. In our forthcoming, in fact, next Saturday, LD meeting for LD6, we'll be discussing the possibility of electing new officers before the end of the year, when Yvette and I would, if you will, cycle out per state guidelines. So there is a possibility that Yvette will remain the SCM from LD6 and be a representative as such to the county board until then. But I don't know if that would necessarily preclude her from wanting to take this role, because there is that possibility that we will be electing a new slate of officers, again, up to the new PCOs of the 6th. It's really at their discretion, as you know.
Okay.
Maybe more information. You got a $5 answer for a nickel question there, I think. But
it's a great answer. So, Yvette, I'm going to ask you whether you would accept the nomination and second it has been made for you to be a candidate for the county party's representative from the 3rd LD.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm always have to ask that question. Thank you, both Karen and Mary, for the nomination. I did write to David a little earlier to ask if there was any other individual who was interested in running for this position. I have served since 2016 and as a representative on the executive committee, and I think I have, maybe according to John and others, probably the best attendance record for the county party, but I know it's been choppy with the election of the new chair. My only concern is that I feel that we have to still make certain that we do everything to comply with the PDC actions, and so that's why I would probably continue to serve. Although if there's somebody else who really wants to serve in that capacity, I want to support new blood to the party as well. So that's my concern. But otherwise, I'm not prepared to sort of launch my high points or low points, but I would accept a nomination.
Okay, so Yvette, when it comes next week, when the 6th LD meets, because you're still representing the 6th LD at the state central committee level and the county level until that body determines whether it might want to make a change. And so do you have a sense, and I'm going to ask Jack the same thing, do the two of you have a sense as to what the 6th LD would like to do, as they're sort of in the same transition stage that we are? Because I don't want to ask Yvette to say she's going to step down as state committee member for the 6th earlier than normal, because she's an incredible representative from the 6th LD to the state central committee and brings important voices to the state central committee. So I don't want to have the 3rd LD do anything that's going to harm Yvette's opportunities to continue to represent the 6th LD through the end of November.
I don't have a great sense that I know I've been actively looking for chair and vice chair, at least nominees or people who are potentially interested. And there's been a couple of names, but really I have not had any direct interest yet in either of the SCM positions from LD6. So
well, yeah, and SCMs, I misspoke. SCMs automatically continue through the end of November. But Jack, is the 6th contemplating electing county representatives as well?
I really will have a better sense of that in 1 week's time, but no one has actively expressed interest. Let's say that.
Okay. And do your bylaws contemplate county representatives?
No, they don't actually, currently.
Okay. So one way of looking at it would be Yvette. Yvette is automatically currently a member of the county party e-board because in her role as state committee member for the 6th. And so Yvette, that's not going to help the county get quorum because you're going to be the same part of the numerator when you participate, but you're not going to be adding to the denominator. The denominator does not change. So,
and David, if I may interject, we are actively pursuing updating our bylaws for several reasons, including, the sort of the DACA type of language, et cetera.
Yep.
So in that session, we could propose that we open up those offices for the 2 individuals who would represent us to the state, to the county party, if that would help make quorum and get more active interest there. I mean, I don't think anyone would be opposed to the idea.
Okay, and has that been noticed in your notice of meeting to the 6th LD, or is it something that would happen at a future meeting?
No, it's in our general agenda for our next meeting was to begin to formulate a committee to update the bylaws and to what extent. So once we've established that committee, it could be recommended to them that, by our executive committee, that they consider making that additional change to our bylaws.
Okay, so it's not as terrible as I was thinking.
No, I think it's an open question, and I can't anticipate that we'd have resistance to that, honestly.
Okay. And so therefore it might be possible where the 6th LD would change its bylaws to say we're gonna do what the 3rd and the 4th did, which is as separate county representatives, and therefore Yvette would no longer be an automatic member to the county board, which would allow the 3rd LD to elect her.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so Yvette has accepted. Are there any others that would like to self-nominate for the county party representative from the 3rd LD? We have 2. We can either have an additional, Yvette self-identifies as a female. So we can either have additional females, or we can have self-nominate, or we could have male. We need another male representative or a gender other than female in order to give the county party the best opportunity to have quorum going forward. So is there anybody else that might be interested? Keeping in mind that this term is simply through the end of November. That's all we're asking for a commitment for.
I'll self-nominate.
Steve Kirby, we love you. Anyone else who might be interested?
Mary Ann McCurdy, I'll self-nominate.
Okay. And I'm not going to put Kristen Crowder on the spot, but Kristen, you ran the last time. Do you have an interest at all, or no?
Yes, I would be happy to do it. I just am aware that I'm not very familiar with the role at all. So,
okay.
But yes, yes, I'd be happy.
Then if Kristen is interested, I'll withdraw.
That's up to you, Marianne.
No, I just want the position to be filled. I'm happy to have you have it, Kristen.
Okay, then I will do that. Yes.
Okay, and so we still have Yvette having been nominated, and we've got Kristen, and now we've got Steve as well, and so why don't we, Yvette, if you would like to say a few words in your candidacy, and then Kristen, if you would like to be second, saying a few words on behalf of your candidacy, we'll go ahead and go through our process. Unless unless there's additional people that might want to self-nominate. So
Okay.
feel free to.
Dave, I'm sorry, Mary Ann McCurdy, kind of confusing after my nominating Yvette. But I had to step away for a minute and I was unable to hear some of the commentary. So anyway, please proceed.
Okay. And so are there any others that would like to self-nominate for either of the two positions?
Actually, David, I know this is a really sort of crazy transition period, as we integrate many of our PCO positions from the 6th to the 3rd LD. And so I'm familiar with the rule that I would serve as state committee member for the 6th until November. So I want to preserve that capacity. And I would like to encourage Kristen to remain in the race. I would like to withdraw from candidacy for the county representative position, and I will just be happy to coach Kristen or other representatives to the Spokane County Party. It's not a tiring position to serve in, but it has been one that's been long time and long term for me. So I don't mind moving on. I think I appreciate your words, David, too, about the state committee. I like making friends and I like serving on the state committee. I know I've probably been causing concern for a few, not so much around King County because of King County, but mostly because, as you know, David, I've been fighting the fight to have at least 17% of the state budget dedicated to Eastern Washington because, we make up that populace and we don't have any permanent staff at the state party serving in Eastern Washington. And, most of the political organizations I'm familiar with these days are making certain that they have Eastern Washington representation. So that's my key concern and why I want to continue to serve in the state committee is to advocate for that change, because I just feel that we're never going to turn Eastern Washington blue until we have permanent staff available to us, either in Spokane or in the Tri-Cities, supporting us on that basis. And so I haven't rallied all of the Spokane County Democrats around that concept, but I really want to do that within the whole of the 5th district or the 4th district. And so I'm sorry if I'm taking up very much time, but on that issue, but I know it's not a popular position to fight for, it seems, but it's still an important one that has to be taken on. So anyway, that's my commentary about this. I don't mean to politicize this Spokane County representative position, but I'd be happy to support Kristen in that effort. And I'm glad that she stepped up, and I appreciate, people understanding why I feel this way. So thank you, and have a good morning.
Thank you, Yvette. So we're now down to the candidacies of Steve Kirby and Kristen Crowder. Nominations are closed, and I will entertain a motion under our rules. We have two candidates, each of differing genders. I will entertain a motion to elect each of them by acclamation.
McCurdy, so moved.
Seconded.
Okay. And so I've got Mary Ann McCurdy and Jack Donahue's name flashed up with the voice, so I'm going to record that as the seconder. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All opposed? And any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain because I didn't hear who the two people were.
Okay. And John, there's Steve Kirby and Kristen Crowder.
Wonderful. Then I will change my vote to aye.
Okay. We'll record you as aye. And so, Kristen and Steve, congratulations on agreeing to serve the 3rd Legislative District as representatives to the County Party's Executive Committee. Please block on your calendars the 3rd Wednesday of each month, starting at 6 o'clock. I will work with you individually to get you your 3rd LD email addresses, which are used to notice those meetings from the county party. And John, I'll also get you their individual email addresses so that you and Carmela are aware of the best ways to contact both of those individuals.
Very good. Just a quick side note that this month's board meeting is at 7. At this upcoming Wednesday, we had to change the time to, there was an event that we need to be at, so 7 o'clock.
Okay, so 3rd Wednesday of May at 7 o'clock. Steve and Kristen, if you could get that on your calendar, and then 6 o'clock for the 3rd Wednesdays going forward. Thank you so much. Next items are consideration of non-exclusive endorsements for Spokane County Commissioner candidates. As I mentioned early on, the Lilac Parade has interfered, or the Junior Lilac Parade has interfered with all 3 of the announced commissioner candidates from being able to fully participate. But we do have 3 requests for endorsement from the 3 candidates that have so far filed with the Public Disclosure Commission to run for Spokane County Commissioner that impact the 3rd LD. Those are commissioner candidates in Districts 1, 2, and 5. District 1 candidate is Chris Jordan. And I'm going to read, he's got 2 pages. I'm going to, actually 3 pages. I'm going to condense it down. But basically, Chris Jordan is currently an Assistant Attorney General in Bob Ferguson's office. He requests our endorsement for Commissioner in District 1, which covers the west side of town, stretches from 29th Avenue on the South Hill up north through parts of 5 Mile to Meade High School. He's running for commissioner to build a region where all families and children can thrive, where everyone feels a sense of safety, fairness, and belonging, and all are treated as with dignity. For the last 6 years, he has served as an Assistant Attorney General in Bob Ferguson's office here in Spokane County. He specializes in child safety cases, supervises a team of attorneys, and is a leader on the Juvenile Court Improvement Committee. His daytime job is to keep children safe and to help vulnerable families heal. He's a 4th generation Spokaneite, and to pass the high school test, which I learned as coming into Spokane County, the high school he attended was Mount Spokane High School. He's a proud union member and helped lead the recent successful effort to unionize his colleagues in the Attorney General's office. And he's worked actively with political campaigns in the state and the county.
What was his name again?
His name is Christopher Jordan, Jordan, and his email or his web address is chrisjordanforspokane.com if you would like to learn more about him. So chrisjordanforspokane.com.
And which district?
District 1. District 2 candidate who has requested our endorsement, and Chris Jordan is the only self-identified Democrat who is currently filed with the Public Disclosure Commission to run. The only self-identified Democrat to file in District 2 is former council member Amber Waldroth. Amber has requested our endorsement for Spokane County Commission District 2. She has served as a Democratic PCO for about 10 years in the 3rd Legislative District, and she's planning to run for re-election as a PCO in Precinct 3102. She is running for the County Commission to build a safe, just, and sustainable Spokane County that expands economic opportunity for all residents and includes all voices in making decisions.
Okay.
She brings trusted leadership and proven results from 8 years as a Spokane City Council member and 20 years of partnering with community and business leaders to solve local challenges. She was born and raised in Northeast Spokane in a working family and wants to continue to champion the needs of local working families, from access to childcare, affordable housing, and transportation, to ensuring that our justice system works fairly for all residents. She has been an effective regional leader, leading the charge for increasing transit, investing in historically marginalized communities, and passing new fair labor practices. She is passionate about creating an environment where all children, youth, and families can live healthy lives and have access to what we need to reach our full potential and contribute to our community. Amber's web address is amberwaldriff.com, and that's where you can go to learn more about her. The third candidate that touches the 3rd legislative district, and so we can only endorse candidates that appear on ballots in the 3rd legislative district. Hence, even though we've got 5 commissioner districts, only 3 of them appear on ballots in the 3rd legislative district, and that candidate is Maggie Yates. Maggie was working for Spokane County in the criminal justice area, and she has declared her candidacy to run against Al French in newly created District 5. And Maggie's statement is, I am running as a Democrat for Spokane County Commissioner in the 5th District, and I'm seeking an endorsement from the 3rd Legislative District Democrats. I am currently the only Democrat who is filed with the PDC in the 5th District. This race is a swing district and will determine whether a majority of Democrats will sit on the Spokane County Commissioners. I would be honored to have your endorsement and support. And her website is Elect Maggie, MAGGIE, Yates, YATES.com. So electmaggieyates.com. And I have had chats before these individuals decided to run with the Public Disclosure, or decided to file with the Public Disclosure Commission as candidates. I have recommended them, each of them, to the state party organization for Access to Vote Builder. Each of them has had conversations with State Party Chair Tina Podlodowski and Coordinated Campaign Director as well. And so I am pleased to recommend to the PCOs and the 3rd LD that we collectively endorse their candidates on a non-exclusive basis, just in case there's any candidates that might file during filing week as well, but on a non-exclusive basis for election as Spokane County Commissioner, and would request a motion to that effect so that we can have a discussion. Who made the motion?
Elliot Fabric.
Elliot, we've got you as the mover. Is there a seconder?
Second, Karen Mobley.
Seconded by Karen Mobley. And let's open it up for discussion. If anybody's got any questions, comments, or concerns about endorsing these 3 candidates, feel free to express them at this point in time. None appearing. We'll go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor of endorsing Christopher Jordan, Amber Waldriff, and Maggie Yates for the position of Spokane County Commissioner, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. And any abstentions? The motion has passed. And so next item on the agenda is consideration of other county candidates who have filed with the PDC as of May 13th of 2022. To the best of my knowledge, there are no other candidates who appear on ballots in the 3rd Legislative District who have filed. and so we have no items there. We have had one request, an initial inquiry from Natasha Hill for endorsement for the 5th Congressional District. We did not reach out to either one of the campaigns on the federal side because we were focusing on county endorsements at this particular point in time. And what I would like to recommend to the PCOs is that we defer consideration of federal candidates for Congress until our September meeting, unless there is an objection to that from the body. Elliot, you've raised your hand.
Has Vicki Dalton already been endorsed by the 3rd?
Yeah, Vicki Dalton was endorsed at our meeting in March. And so at our meeting in March, we endorsed Senator Patty Murray. We endorsed Secretary of State Steve Hobbs. We endorsed County Auditor Vicki Dalton. And we also endorsed for re-election Marcus Riccelli and Tim Ormsby. Great question, Elliot. Thank you. Especially for those that might not have been, at the March meeting. Is there any objection to moving on to the next item? None appearing. And so you did receive by email a notice of a special meeting for 1 week from today. That is a backup meeting. And until you run for office, you don't realize how short the time frame is from the end of filing week until the deadline for putting in your candidate statement. And so the reason we considered endorsements before filing week is now Chris and Amber and Maggie can include in their candidate statement for the primary election that they are endorsed by the 3rd Legislative District Democrats. The deadline for submitting the candidate statement after filing week is incredibly short. And so that's why we've got a notice of a special meeting for this coming Saturday, 1 week from today, in the off chance that there are any additional candidates that file to run during filing week, so that those candidates have the same opportunity to get endorsed and put in their voter guide statement that gets published for the August primary election that they too have been endorsed. I am not personally aware of any candidates who are waiting in the wings to run, but you should also take that with a grain of salt, because both times that I have run for county office, in 2018 for county treasurer and in 2020 for county commissioner, I filed on the last day of filing week. And so that's the reason why we've got this meeting set up as a special meeting. If we need it in the off chance, I am not currently intending on running for elected office in Spokane County, but just in case any of you might be, coerced or arms twisted, or you decide that you want to run for county treasurer or county clerk or county assessor or county sheriff, that you've got the ability to get your candidacies into the statement. And so that's the reason for the special meeting. And then if we do not have any additional candidates for countywide office, we're not going to have the meeting on Saturday. So I'll know on Friday at 4 o'clock if we've got any additional candidates. That's the time deadline for putting in a candidacy statement. And at 4:01, if we've got no candidates that have filed, I will let all of you know via email that the meeting on Saturday, a week from today, has been canceled. Now, let's talk about personal business. So each person on this call is a PCO, either elected, acting, or appointed. If you're an appointed PCO, this is your opportunity to file during this coming filing week by going to the Spokane County Elections Office and filing to run for PCO, to be an elected PCO in your precinct for the term starting December 1st of 2022 and continuing through November 30th of 2024. If you're already an elected PCO, this is the time this coming week, Monday at 9 o'clock is when it opens up online, and it closes Friday at 4 o'clock. And if you're an acting PCO, that means you're representing a precinct that is not that you don't live in, this is the great opportunity to run for PCO of your precinct so that you can be a voting member of the 3rd Legislative District PCOs. So this is your official reminder from me. You got an official reminder from the county party yesterday via email that filing week is this cycle, filing week for precinct committee officers as well. And I would love to have each and every one of you run for precinct committee officer for the coming 2-year term. Your existing term runs through November 30th. But would love to have each and every person on this call, as well as everybody else who's not on the call, file to run for election or re-election as PCO, as the case may be. Any other items to bring to the good of the order? Our next scheduled regular meeting is Saturday, September 10th. And Patty Irvin, I just want to put you on notice that that Saturday, in September 10th, has been called for a meeting of the Democratic National Committee in Maryland. And so I will be on the East Coast transacting business as a DNC member by virtue of being vice chair of the state party. And so we have set that date as a meeting, and Patty Irvin is my vice chair. You are going to be running that meeting. So everybody be sure to mark Saturday, September 10th as the meeting. And Patty, I look forward to introducing you into the wonderful, wacky world of running PCO meetings. So I see you've taken yourself off mute, so now is the time to wail.
God, no. Well, I should.
I have a question. The filing for PCO, is that something can be done online, or does that have to be in person?
It can be done in person. Most people do it online. Elliot, I saw you put something in the chat. Yep, Elliot put in the chat the link to online candidate filing.
Okay.
And so the easiest way for me to get you there, if you don't want to click on that link, is use the browser search engine of your choice, put in Spokane County Elections online candidate filing, and it should take you to that link. It'll ask you to log in to make sure that you're a registered voter. It will automatically populate you with your new precinct, and you can do everything easy peasy. There is no filing fee to run for precinct committee officer, so that it makes it cheap and easy. If you choose to, you can go down to the county elections office on Gardner, excuse me, and do it in person. And if you want to, you can go to the Spokane County Elections website today and print out a paper form that just needs to be mailed and received no later than 4 p.m. on Friday of next week. So there's 3 ways of doing it: online, which is easy if you've got online access; in person, if you want to have a selfie taken at the elections office for when you're running for PCO. And as well as doing it through the mail, if you would like to do it through the mail. Does anybody else have any questions? Kristen, that was a great question. Does anybody else have any questions on how to do things? So Elliot, thank you for putting that link in there. But any other questions?
David?
Yes.
This is Yvette. I was in Anaheim, California, in my role as a gaming commissioner for the Colville Tribe in the week of April the 19th through the 22nd, and it was an interesting conference. But when I went down, I got notification from a gal from Atoya is her name, from the DNC, that President Biden was going to be in Seattle on the 22nd of April. And so there were pictures that were posted by Tina of the the sort of delegation, and my understanding was it was an opportunity really for the president to support Kim Schreier in her run for Congress again. And so that's what I sort of heard from Chris Stearns. And it was sort of it wasn't a last minute visit, but it was something that was really vetted by the White House. But I wondered, were you in Seattle to greet the president and remaining delegation?
And so I was, thank you, Yvette, for your question. I was advised on, the president came in for basically an Earth Day presentation, a bill signing in Seattle on Friday, April 22nd. I was advised by the state party on Monday, the 18th, that he was coming into town and needed to make an immediate decision as to whether or not I would be able to, because they have everybody run through the Secret Service. So unfortunately, I had a conflict with another organization that I was hosting a Zoom meeting at the same time that the president was going to be in Seattle. So I was not able to participate. But typically, nothing in the White House is done much in advance. I mean, they do planning in advance from a big picture perspective, but decisions are made with little, if any, notice as to where the president is going to be. And so here in Washington, I think we had 4 days notice that he was coming, and the state party needed to provide names and social security numbers and all that stuff for the Secret Service vetting almost immediately. So it turns out that the opportunities were obviously with the federals, because the Congress was not in session during that period of time, and a number of local electeds. I know the Speaker of the House in Washington was able to be there. A number of local electeds from the West Side were able to. He had two events in Seattle that were public events. And a number of local electeds on the West Side were able to be there, but due to work requirements for me, I was not able to be there.
Okay, well, I was curious, and I still am managing the Native Americans for Biden Facebook account, of which we still were not quite over 10,000, but there are a lot of people who follow sort of our posts, and but I've been asked by press for some of the Native American newspapers to provide more updates about, say, like the Easter egg roll or, things like that. And but what I understand is it's been really hard to penetrate some of the press corps in the White House. And but I know, if there's these meetings that occur where there are visits coming from the East Coast to Washington State, it's a prime opportunity. And so I was trying to do what I could to get tribal representation there, mostly because, we always have to make certain that they have a presence. They're important to the election process. But there were about 4 or 5, including Leonard Forsman that you mentioned earlier, who were there. And so I felt heartened about that. But I just, without having a Democrat here, a major Democrat, in Congress, it makes it a challenge. So, Lou, I know you're on the call. I wish you well. And, it's just the best way to follow what the president's doing is to go to the White House briefing room on their White House website. So anyway, I just wanted to say, David, basically that they are stepping up invitations for weekly calls, and I will try to continue to become a part of that. I just want to let other people on the call know that it's not too hard to follow sort of what's happening, but we're really going to need to have everyone step up. And if you become engaged now in the activity 2 years out from the election, there's a higher likelihood that you'll get these kind of invites. And so I just want to encourage people, if you have the time, to follow, what's happening in the White House. It is very insightful, and you learn a lot about what's happening, and particularly around the economy and, the war and the pandemic. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that in the good of the order. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. And we did, we obviously had a fair number of high-ranking DNC officials at the ASDC meeting in Seattle. Tina and her team, Tina, as I mentioned, had COVID and was not able to be at the meeting, but it was a great meeting because we were able to showcase, we had a panel of Native American leaders in front of all the 57 state and territorial parties. We had a panel of elected Asian American leaders, including Senator Manka Dhingra, Secretary of State Hobbs, Representative Mylin Tai, as well as I believe it's Colette Hasagawa, who was recently elected to the City of Seattle Port Commission. So we got to express the diversity of Washington, and a lot of heartfelt comments clearly made it through from those two panels to the 57 state and territorial party organizations. And so, and then I also got to, as I noted, I got to introduce Chair Leonard Forsman, who's the chair of the Suquamish tribe, president of the Affiliated Tribes of Northwest Indians, who then introduced Governor Inslee to the group at the reception on Thursday. Are there any other, thank you for that good of the order comment. Are there any other good of the order comments? Kathy, I know you've got your hand raised. Would you like to speak on your good of the order?
Yes, I just wanted to encourage everyone to check out the Civics Bowl on Channel 7 on Mondays at 7. It's high school teams that are battling their knowledge in a Jeopardy type situation. And it's only half an hour and it moves very fast. And there might be some civics that you don't quite remember that will be asked. So I encourage you to check it out and share it with all your folks that you come in contact with, to especially encourage the youngins.
Super. Lou Hill, I see your hand is up, so feel free to unmute yourself and comment on your good of the order.
I was just wanted to mention that I have been working with Corey Crownhart, who's been working with the county party to develop a campaign school for campaign workers. I think that, obviously there's a huge need in our region to have people who are from here, who understand the community, also becoming better professionals within the campaign employment world. And so if you go to the website, you can find a login there. It'll run through June, and there is an application process because we are kind of vetting a little bit who comes, not because we want to exclude anyone, but we do want to make sure that it is progressives and people who align with democratic values who are signing up for the class. And so if you could share that information, I will put a link in the chat. And if you know anyone who's ever been interested in serving on a campaign, this would be a great way. And if you have knowledge or information, we're building the curriculum together, me and Corey. So we've been reaching out to folks who wanted to provide insight. So if you think you have something to offer in terms of the curriculum, please reach out. We're really open and understand that so many of you have so much great experience, especially relevant to our community here in Eastern Washington. So thank you.
Thank you, Lou. If you could be so kind as to send me that link as well, and I'll include it in a follow-up from this meeting. I think it's going to complement the T3 training that you should have gotten some emails on from me before I left for Seattle, and you might have gotten them directly from the state party. So T3 is Train the Trainer. And it focuses on grassroots campaigning. It's a 6 weeks, 12-part course. I went through it when I first became a chair, and it's baby steps on to becoming a better activist and a better campaign worker and a better PCO. And so T3 will complement nicely with Lou Hill's perspective, but I applaud the effort to get folks in Eastern and Central Washington that can be more actively involved in campaigns. Any other folks that might have some comments or questions?
Yeah.
Okay, without objection, this meeting is adjourned, and don't forget filing week, Monday starting at 9 a.m., continuing through Friday at 4 p.m. is the online opportunity. You also have the ability to go in person. You have the ability to head there now, download a form, print it out, and mail it so that it gets received. And we will see you in September on the 10th when Patty Irvin, Vice Chair Extraordinaire, will be running the meeting. So thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.